So today, we're covering ancient Mesopotamia. Yesterday, we started our world history journey with prehistory. Ended up being a lot of science, going from how humans first evolved from apes to hominids, which are human-like peoples, how we evolved to have our upright posture, have opposable thumbs, and our bigger brains, which then eventually let us make tools and start using them to improve our lives, including even with art and the like. And then the very first starts of civilizations as people started to settle down, make settlements, get agriculture set up, and start learning. Um, so now we are moving on to some of the first civilizations. So now, all right. We'll redo the start there. So we're in Mesopotamia. It's the area between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. This is where some of the first human civilizations started to take form. It's in modern day Iraq, but the Fertile Crescent area that people refer to usually also extends over here towards Egypt. One of the very first civilizations that popped up was Sumeria. Sumeria was founded around or started developing around 4000 BCE. So that's 6,000 plus years ago now from modern day. They took advantage of the rich soil around these two rivers that deposited mineral rich ground for farming. The people of Sumeria were primarily led by religious classes. They had a polytheistic religion where they had many, many, many gods. They tended to revolve around the rivers that they used as their lifeblood. They frequently built ziggurats, which are the stepped pyramids. That were generally massive temples made of clay bricks. Most of them have been lost to this day. Some were buried, and archaeologists have uncovered them. But like a lot of really ancient structures, not many or none have really survived till today. This made Sumeria a theocracy, which is they were ruled by religion, ruled by a priest class. Other major inventions by the Sumerians around 3000 BCE, so they had been around for 1,000 years, was they started to create the first forms of writing. This is cuneiform. I believe I mentioned it briefly yesterday, but as you can see, they took kind of the visuals of things and made very, very small kind of indents and impression versions of them, just basic lines. And they took clay tablets that were wet, and they just used reeds and other things to poke the words into the clay tablets. The issue being that once the clay tablets dried, you couldn't change them at all. This does create a class in their society of scribes, of people who actually made these writings. And because they were on clay tablets, many of them have survived to this day. I believe there's a lot of museums in Great Britain and stuff that have cuneiform tablets, and they're working on translating them, or if they found fragmented tablets, they're working on trying to bring them together and find cohesive workings. Or cohesive works. Writing also is where we get some of the first literature, just stories. Hello, Cosmic Kraken. There is one of the major first epic tales is the story of Gilgamesh, a legendary king, and his best friend Enkidu. Additionally, in the area, they were primarily made up of settlements called city-states. This is a city that effectively acts as the regional, like, political power in the area around them, but most of the population just lives in the city. It's different than like later nations and stuff, where it's multiple settlements that are under the control of one entity. The Sumerians also were the ones to invent the system that we use to tell time, with, 60 seconds equal a minute and 60 minutes equal an hour. Following as the city states in Sumeria started to compete with each other and fight over resources, eventually Sumeria broke apart and fell, and that happened around the year 2000. So Sumeria lasted about 2,000 years. Progress was really slow back in this time, so that tracks for that time period. Um, Following them, the next major civilization in Mesopotamia is the Akkadian Empire. They were led for about 50 years by King Sargon the First. They were primarily known for setting up their language. It's one of the Semitic languages. Today, some of the Semitic languages are Arabic and the like, and it really so, as you can tell, the languages have lasted and continued to be used as a root language in the area up till today. Um, Following them, Babylon, which you can see on the map here in the green. They were one of the uh, preeminent cities in the region. One of their major leaders was Hammurabi, and he is the one who initially founded the first set of laws. He had a list called Hammurabi's Code, and it just included 282 laws that were written down for the first time, so people knew that if they committed certain crimes, what their punishment would be. Frequently, it was along the ideas of eye for an eye, that essentially the punishment should be equally as bad as the crime. Additionally, the Babylonians did construct roads and they encouraged trade, and they essentially became a hub in the Middle East, even bringing stuff over from India or Egypt as well into the region. There was a bit of people of different classes were treated slightly differently under the law, which is still around to this day. But yeah, the first idea of laws goes back to Babylon between the year of 2000 BCE and 1500, and also their city or their society was patriarchal, meaning that it was ruled by the father or the men of the society. Later on, in around the years 1400, the next major civilization that rises is Assyria, which you can see up in the north here. It was given its central location, it frequently was the target of attacks from outsiders, less civilized people raiding them for supplies and stuff. So the Assyrians became very effective warriors, and they started to conquer lands. They pushed in towards the Nile River of Egypt, the Persian Gulf, and King Sargon II, who is Assyrian. The first one was Akkadian. He is the one who established the idea that kings have absolute power, that they are the pinnacle of the law. This goes in combination with previous ideas of kings being ordained by God and the like. They also expanded their trade networks even into the Mediterranean. Nineveh, the city which you can see right here above the word Assyria along this river, ended up becoming their capital until about the year 700 BCE. So that's a couple hundred years of the Assyrians being around. They constructed the world's first libraries of the tablets that were first invented by the Babylonians. It's very important when looking at history that you note that cultures always are learning from each other as they interact, whether through trade or conflict and stuff. So even though Babylon is, or sorry, Sumeria is the one that first created clay tablets and stuff, now everyone has started to make use of them in cuneiform as the way of writing. The Assyrians were eventually put in or eventually fell as they came under attack from the likes of the Persians, which would have been from the east, the Scythians, which would have been north up here, past like the Caucasus mountain ranges and modern day uh, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia, those areas, as well as the Medes, which actually I don't know myself, but um, following all of these other rising empires in the Middle East, Babylon does kind of get a second golden age in the 600 BCE era. Uh, they were called the Chaldeans. Uh, and they were known for their mastery of mathematics and astronomy. They even had they identified the first 5 planets that astronomers knew of: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. And they even had people dedicated to just trying to track them. So as you can tell, this area of the world saw some of the earliest nations. It's from, and then also developed a lot of the basics of laws, writing, math, and warfare. Which brings us to the end of the chapter on ancient Mesopotamia. Next time, we'll be covering ancient Africa. And this is where we'll actually get into Egypt, which existed around the same time period as a lot of those other ones. It's just in a different category because it has a lot going on. Thank you for listening. And then we'll be moving into the news. Does anyone have any comments or questions, though? Also looking up the Medes ancient civilization. It looks like they were Iranian people between western and northern Iran. Right up here. Is this the Caspian Sea, I believe, up here? So they had so the Assyrians were eventually destroyed by Persians from the east, Medes from the northeast, and Scythians from the north. Ready? Cool. With that, we'll get into the news.